Yo, welcome. This video is basically your ticket to understanding the basics of the meta. I'll be covering everything from stats, team comps, and reactions, so let me get right into it. First of all, how do stats work? Every character has attack, HP, and defense as their base stats, and they also have a bonus stat they ascend with. Attack, HP, and defense, meta-wise, aren't really used for increasing health or decreasing damage. They're only used as a way to buff your character's talents. After that, we have stats like damage bonus, which multiplies your damage, and then we have crit stats. Crit rate is the chance of landing a crit, and crit damage multiplies your total damage. After that, we have healing bonus, which multiplies your healing. Energy recharge gives you more energy per particle, and particles are generated with each skill use. Okay, so the thing with ER is that it's no longer valuable if you're past a certain point. For example, Shangling, if you have 200 ER in some teams, it's enough, you don't need more. But in other teams where she needs like 300 ER and you don't have enough, she's basically useless. ER is extremely character and team specific, so the easiest way to find out how much ER you need is to search the team up. Elemental Mastery buffs the reactions procced by your characters. Depending on the team and your character's element, EM is either really useful, okay, or completely useless. For example, EM on a cryo character who's in a freeze team doesn't do anything, but EM on a character like Cookie in a Hyperbloom team is extremely important. Well, those were basically all the stats, but you're like, yo Aldi, my god, how do I even get these stats? Well, the answer is leveling up your characters, your weapons, and getting artifacts. Okay, but how do I build characters? The less efficient way is to first level to 80-90, then talents, then artifact main stat, then set and optimizing it even further. Those to scale on HP, defense, EM, whatever, change the attack to that most of the time, but if they trigger reactions like Vape or Melt, they might prefer EM. Reaction-based DPSs, characters like Cookie or the Trigger in a Nilo Blue team, want level 90 and as much EM as possible. Some characters don't follow this rule at all. For example, Furina prefers an HP goblet over a damage percentage most of the time. As a general rule, on-field characters care more about offensive stats like what they scale with, crit, and EM if they trigger reactions, while off-field DPS characters will care more about ER if they're near their ult. Off-field and on-field characters that are burst dependent want their ER requirement at all costs. Most supports ignore this rule. They either fully stack what they scale with, or change some artifacts to help them with their burst or with their healing. Some might even go a lower rarity artifact set because of the buff that it gives to the team. This rule is kinda too generic, so I recommend just searching it up because there's so many specific builds and whatnot that characters want to use. Okay bro, you yapped about stats, briefly mentioned artifacts, even less weapons, and I still don't know how to do damage. Can you explain that to me? And my answer to you, my dear viewer, is yes. I'm just getting into it, bro. So, how to do damage? There's two types of damage. Talent-based damage and reaction-based damage. Talent-based damage is the damage you do from your character's talents. They scale on your stats as well as crit, damage bonus, or any other buffs. There are still some reactions that can buff this even further. Then there's reaction-based damage, which is only transformative reactions, which are reactions that scale purely on character level and DM. Reactions this, reactions that. Okay bro, what are reactions? There's three types of elemental reactions. Multiplicative reactions, additive reactions, and transformative reactions. Multiplicative reactions basically multiply the damage you already do before the reaction by a certain percentage. Okay, let's say you do 20,000 without any reactions. Depending on the reaction and the amount of EM that you have, you'll get a bigger multiplier. So, get your camera out, you're about to do some crazy nukes using these reactions. Additive reactions are basically damage added onto your talent damage. Let's say you do 10,000 a hit. Every time you proc the reaction, you get a bonus 1k damage that doesn't scale off the damage you already did, unlike Vape or Melt. To get either of them, first you have to trigger Quicken, and then, depending on the element, you either proc Aggravate or Spread. Last but not least, we have transformative reactions. Unlike the previous two, they don't scale of attack, crit, damage percent or any other buffs. They only care about your character's levels and DM. If you're building a character to proc transformative reactions, you have to keep in mind that their talent damage will not be significant since they scale off different things. Well, time to mention them. Bloom is an AoE dendro damage bomb that activates after 5 seconds. It is not recommended to build a team around this without Nilu. Hyperbloom basically detonates this bomb and makes it home into nearby enemies, dealing single target dendro damage. Burgeon actually detonates the bomb, dealing AoE dendro damage. Burning does pyro damage over time. Because of how it works, it can also be used to apply pyro in teams like Maloney Vape or Ganyu Burn Melt. Electrocharge deals electro damage over time. Because Electrocharge basically makes it so both an Electro and a Hydro Aura exist at the same time, this can give a small bonus to your damage in teams like Raiden National, or make the teams even better like in Taser teams. Overloaded deals pyro damage in an AoE. Superconduct deals cryo damage in an AoE and also reduces physical resistance. Freeze basically stuns the enemies in place. Hitting a frozen opponent with a blunt attack or a geo attack will trigger a shatter, which does physical damage. Swirl does AoE damage of the element that was infused. Crystallize creates a shard on the ground. Picking up this shard will give you a shield aligned with the element used to proc the reaction. Okay, so these were all the reactions. That's cool. How can I build a team, by the way? Okay, so characters can be categorized into certain roles such as main DPS, sub DPS, whatever. Wait. What are the roles? Well, I'm glad you asked. Characters can be categorized into DPS characters, as in main DPS and sub DPS. Sometimes you might hear on-field DPS or off-field DPS. They're basically the more specific way of saying main or sub DPS, since there are some teams in which your main source of damage is from off-field, such as Hyperbloom. Then you have support or buffer, same thing. They basically just buff your characters. Driver enables your party to trigger specific reactions. A sustain character, either a shielder or a healer. A battery helps with energy, and then a grouper, there's some anemo characters who can classify as this, because they group the enemies together. All characters fall into these roles, but most aren't exclusive to just one. For example, Bennett heals your party with his burst, but also buffs the attack for on-field characters. Teams are usually built around character cores, reactions, or both. Cores are groups of 2 or 3 characters who work really well together. The best example is Xiangling and Bennett, since Xiangling can benefit from Bennett's burst for the whole duration of her Pyronado, even when she's off-field, and since Bennett can generate pyro particles for Xiangling, they make a perfect team. Some examples, of course, are double pyro, double hydro, double electro, a hyperbloom core, but it mainly is just 2 characters who work really well together, like Hutawa Xingqiu or Newbie and Furina. Most teams follow this rule: 1 on-field DPS, 1 off-field DPS, 1 buffer, and either 1 sustain character or another off-field DPS or buffer. Since most characters fall into more than one category, in practice it can seem a little bit complicated. For example, the Rational team. This team has Raiden as the main DPS and also a very important battery. It has Xingqiu, who is a sub DPS and also a driver for Xiangling. Xiangling, which is a very good sub DPS, and Bennett, who can battery Xiangling, can heal, and can also buff your sources of damage. Most teams are built around the main DPS, their reactions and other synergies, but there are also teams completely based around reactions like Hyperbloom, and also teams based only on synergies like mono teams. Well, this was basically the quote-unquote introduction to the meta. I hope you learned something, or at least enjoyed the video. If this video gets 7 likes, I'll follow up with a Team Archetypes video, so subscribe for that. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video.